Alright, welcome everybody to another week of Game Wisdom Live for the week of October 13, 2019. We are officially in Halloween month here. It's going to be all spooky. As you can see up there, Shark has gone Batman with the shark signal. And we didn't do anything last week, and I don't remember quite why. Do you know why I wasn't here last week, Shark?
I think it was something about you were too busy cosplaying a tomato.
Yeah, I got my Halloween costume early as a completely sunburned YouTuber. Very limited appeal to that costume. I was the only one showing it off.
I don't know. It seemed like a lot of appeal to it.
So right now, the only you can actually see is there's like a little bit of like where the scab fell off, like right there on my face for those of you watching, and hopefully that should heal in the week, and then I'll go back to my normal, somewhat, I guess, not so tan self by then. I will have to say my skin is now super smooth from where it all peeled off. I'm used to having my skin being very dry. How many peel base jokes are we going to get in chat before the end of the stream? We should put a counter up somewhere.
Hopefully, a safely extreme number of counts on that.
I think we just found the new name for my suntan lotion. Safely extreme. But how's everything going with you, Shark?
Things are progressing slow in some ways, really busy in other ways. It's just normal game development for me, anyway. I don't know if it's quite normal for other game developers, but it's pretty normal for me.
Yeah, I'm trying to again keep busy with my calls. We are actually less than 50 subscribers away from 5,000 for the channel. So thank you everybody for watching. For the quiet majority who's hopefully tuning into this.
And Oscar asked about the problems with the artist. Well, I've hired another artist. I've got them started. I think the new artist, I think, is starting on art as of today, but I'm unsure. I don't know if I have them everything they need yet.
Shark has bad luck with artists. And right now, I'm just kind of. That happened once. I closed it like a YouTuber. I went from like 49 to like 0 once. My heart kind of just stopped there for a second. There's your horror moment. That would probably give me a bigger jump scare than playing Five Nights at Freddy's. Oh, I think that would give a jump scare to anyone on YouTube or Twitch. You know, you had 300,000 subscribers. You have 0 now.
I think it's more of a jump if it's something more realistic, like they go from like 300,000 down to 250 or something.
I don't think I would know how that would feel just yet, but I don't know. Maybe if I ever decide to play Fortnite, I'll become big and famous then, right?
Well, I think if you drop from 5,000 down to like 3,500 overnight.
Oh god. That's going to be my nightmare. I think we just coined the next big horror film. You know, attract the millennials and the YouTubers of that one.
Sounds like a great horror movie.
But yeah, the whole sunburn has definitely put me behind. I spent yesterday recording 4 or 5 videos. I still have to record a month in review video for September, which at this rate will probably be the month in review for October. And I need to put out the word for the indie game spotlight as well. I've gotten a few buzz, but there's always room for more of them on there. And I still have to edit the last month's too. We had like 8 or 9 games for that one.
Yeah. I was sitting here thinking, and I found out the perfect name for that movie. The Unsubbed.
There we go. Let's pitch it to what is it, Blumhouse? That's the one that does all the horror movies these days?
I don't know, but maybe.
But with it being October, we're going to be playing a lot more horror games on stream. or horror, I guess, adjacent. Because I think tonight we're going to try and do Ghostbusters, or at least do a little bit of that, the remastered. But it's been hard to find really good horror games to play. We played, of course, Five Nights at Freddy's and Amnesia last night, and both kind of like put me to sleep as I was trying to play them.
Yeah, I was looking at I was looking at the core gameplay loop of Five Nights at Freddy's, and from it, what it looks like is basically a slideshow, basically
Mm-hmm.
with effects over it. It's like a slideshow between like I don't know, like probably about 40 or 50 different images, and then it's just whichever camera you click on, it tells you which slide you're on based on RNG of slide
Mm-hmm.
determination.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we're
And
in mid
then
October already. It feels like it was only yesterday that I couldn't show my face outside. Hi, Guardrobe. Good morning
you
to you. Let's see. Oh, apparently Fortnite is off right now. I was just going to play it today, too. Apparently there's no more Fortnite.
Fortnite is that the reason why everybody's been saying rip Fortnite
I guess
lately?
so. You can tell how clued in, how dialed in we are to what's hip in the world these days. And speaking about getting dialed in, I finally got everything ready to mail out the Josh boxes that I had. I've been waiting for like the right time to get everything organized. So that's going to be going out very soon to the people who donated. And I got the copy of my second book, so it is now officially out and available for people to buy. Let's
Nice.
see, what is going on here with Epic? Yep, so no more Fortnite. I think that just completely. I think did that just implode Twitch as well? Fortnite went down.
Yeah, I when I first heard it, I kind of thought it might tie into one of our subjects there
Mm-hmm.
for today.
Yeah. But I'm sure it'll come back. Speaking about like getting into some of like the news that's been going on, I heard something very interesting today. Let me see if I can pull up the information really fast. But I've heard that there are plans for a Payday 3, despite the fact that Starbreeze is in really big financial problems. And I guess there again, like Payday was the game that kept Starbreeze and Overkill afloat, especially with all the issues that arose from the company. So the current rumor is that Starbreeze wants to have Payday 3 out in either 2022 or 2023. Because as you're well aware of, it's very easy to plan 4 or 5 years of development out right now, right?
Oh yeah, super easy.
Hmm. Did they get bought, saved by Take Two? I know they've been filing for bankruptcy, and they're being, I think, consolidated or restructured right now.
I don't think anybody can be saved by Take Two.
Mm.
I think they might just be getting dragged into another grave kind of thing.
Mm. Yeah, but like Payday is such a fascinating game. Like I was saying about this when I was playing Left 4 Dead last night with Thorn, that I wish that game would have, even though it did really well. I mean, they went like 4 or 5 years of post-release support. Like, I just wish that more of my friends got into that. Like, there's like a thank you, Ricardo. Like they had like I had like a 3 month period while I was playing the game almost nightly with friends, and then nothing. It all just went away. And
Hmm.
yeah, and again, like we really need more solid co-op games. I would love to do like an 8 player versus with Left 4 Dead, but getting 8 other or 7 other people around for that's going to be a nightmare. Yep. I think you may have misspelled ninja there instead of Fortnite.
Yeah, I mean, Ninja is Fortnite, isn't he?
I guess so. Let's see, any other news? And of course, like kind of going with what I was writing this past week about the whole indie darling getting obsessed over one game. Everybody, I think, is obsessing over Fortnite right now. Like pulling
You
up
know what? I think we need to add that to the topics.
which one?
The indie darlings.
Oh, go, sure. Definitely add that to the list. We'll see if the secondary system one is popular. We may switch it for that. But let's see. And I do actually. I've been joking about this, but I do want to play Fortnite at some point because I really want to kind of give it like a examination. Because I mentioned this on the Discord channel. I think Fortnite is like a terrible example of AAA game development, and I'm sure that will go over really well when I make that post.
Hmm. Yeah. They'll probably go over about as well as walking into a store and telling them that you're here to rob it.
Hmm. Or standing outside in the sun for 5 hours without any sunscreen or protection.
It'd be better than that.
Hmm. Wait, Fortnite isn't AAA? Do we consider that quadruple A at this point?
It might. I mean, like, I mean, like we could go with quadruple A. Like what would quadruple A would be like Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, uh, Epic, and Steam games or Valve games rather.
You know, in the when Valve releases a game every 30 years.
I mean, if itch.io ever makes a game, I mean that would be a triple quadruple A right there,
But would it
or
get an indie tag?
probably.
Hmm. And people are still playing PUBG, although not as big, I assume. Yeah, Half-Life 3 will be releasing. And then the next day, the meteor hits that destroys Steam.
Yeah.
But, I've really not had a chance to play too many new games. I finally finished Monster Hunter World. That will kind of be a lead into the secondary system topic later. I guess, have you had a chance to play anything new, Shark?
I've been playing the Swords of Ditto. I've been playing a lot of Factorio, but that's not new to me. What else have I been playing?
Let's see. Yeah, how are you finding Swords of Ditto?
Swords of Ditto. I'm enjoying it. I'm not really a Zelda person, you know.
Hmm.
I love the original Zelda. I love Breath of the Wild, and all the other Zeldas I could care less about. So, but my issue with Swords of Ditto is while I am deeply loving the gameplay and everything of it, issue is I still don't know a lot of the things I'm actually doing because they really lack the onboarding in my opinion because
Mm,
you didn't seem to have any problem with it, but you play like all the Zeldas and everything like
yeah,
um
Zelda DNA right there. Yeah.
yeah, so you didn't need the onboarding. Mine is like, what's this anchor? How does it work?
Hmm.
It says it makes the enemy weaker, but then I look at the enemy after I do it, and she's still level 6.
Hmm.
It's like, how is that weaker?
Yeah. And again, like so many indie developers use genres as kind of shorthand for trying to teach the player, but it doesn't help if the person has never played that genre to begin with. Like,
Hmm.
how many indie platformers don't even give you an explanation about what's the jump button when you turn the game on?
Oh, I mean, Mario didn't even do that.
Mm. But these days, But back then, Mario had a manual. We don't see
Yeah,
indie game manuals these days, unless it's like a collector's edition.
for physical edition.
Hmm. I wonder what the manual for the Binding of Isaac looks like now that I think about it.
Have to look online.
Hmm.
I mean, I do have to say though, as I hate the physical products that you get it and it's just a key printed on a piece of paper. Like it's like that's not a physical product.
No.
It's just a digital product inside of a case.
That is just like crazy to me that they do that. I think I was reading that I think Overwatch does that for the Switch version. It just gives you like the piece of paper to download the game or the game key.
Mm.
But I think we've been playing around enough. Let's get to our first topic because it is a doozy. And it is the one that's kind of been dominating. Oh yeah, collector's editions. They're still the standout example for physical goods. But our first topic there is the big one that's been dominating conversations, and how Blizzard managed to squander 30 years of goodwill in, what do we think, like a span of 3 days, 2 days?
Yeah, it's been a week or two. You know, it's been probably about a year or two that they've compressed into a very short time.
Mm-hmm.
It's been several years.
I mean, it's impressive and disturbing at the same time how quickly like things have gone downhill for Blizzard. As we've said before, the whole thing last year was the don't you people have phones? When Diablo Immortal was announced, and
Yeah.
most people kind of still stuck with them. It wasn't it was a controversy, but it kind of went away quietly. Well, at least depending upon the circle you were in. This one doesn't seem to be doing it. So, for the one person watching this who probably hasn't heard the news, what happened was there was a big Hearthstone tournament that happened last week. And the player, Blitz Chung, I think that's what his name is, he won the Grandmaster. I think that was a $10,000 pot as well. And during the post-game interview, he gave his support for the Hong Kong protest that's going on right now. And basically, in response, Blizzard took away his money. They banned him from the game for a year. They even I'm sorry?
I think it was 3 years they banned him for.
Really? I think it was. I'm not sure. It was either a year or 3 years. I know it was at least that. And they also fired the interviewers who had no idea what was going on at the time. And collectively, a lot of people got very upset. For the non-video game related news, I know there's been some discussions about something going on with the NBA as well, dealing with China. But again, I am very far removed from sports, so I can't tell you yes or no on that one. Okay. And yeah, as Ferrari is saying there, after that broke, basically everybody on the Western Hemisphere started to yell at Blizzard, and a lot of gamers in China as well. And it basically, like we said, was just like flushing away all the goodwill and Blizzard's clout in the span of 3 or 4 days.
Don't forget how they followed it up.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that one. So you would think that after the immense outcry, Blizzard may want to take the slap in the face and do some PR. And they wait until 5:30 in the evening on Friday to announce
I think that's morning time in China.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, there is this post on Twitter that I was made aware of that this translator basically said that they are pretty sure the person who made that post is Chinese.
Yeah.
So go ahead and explain that post.
Yeah, so the post talked about how Blizzard stands by being globally and respecting people and, making sure everyone plays fairly. And then they said, but it was still wrong of him to bring his political beliefs to a video game tournament. So they decided to give him the money back, and but still punish him with a 6-month suspension. Being all friendly and global and all that. And A lot of, and it's basically a non-apology. We're sorry that you decide to say something, but we still think you should be punished for it.
Yeah, sorry, but not sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly, El Gordo. And yeah, like this has been something that it's been quietly or quote unquote quietly bubbling around the scenes these last few years with companies chasing the Chinese market. And that would be a really interesting topic to bring Ramin on, because with his study into free to play design and mobile games, that is a huge in Japan and China in terms of like those respective markets. Again, how many free to play mobile games are based out of China these days?
Yeah, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And did you know that the arcade is also really big in China, in Asia? Just
Really?
Asia in general? Yeah.
No.
Like I know somebody, a friend of mine, actually runs like a whole chain of arcades in the Philippines.
Interesting. Yeah, and right now over here, it's now escape rooms are everywhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
and this has been like one of those issues. Yeah, gotcha as well is a really big example. But we've been hearing these discussions about it's also in the film industry as well, courting Chinese investors and the Chinese market. There's that movie, The Great. What was it like? The Great. I think it was just called The Great Wall, but it dealt with dragons and something like that. And we're seeing this big push all over to expand into China. And the issue, of course, is that the restrictions and what's allowed over there are different than what's over here. One of the more famous examples is, well, from World of Warcraft, by the fact that you couldn't show any representation of the dead or undead in China. So they had to, like, edit the entire undead faction for that market.
Mm.
And this reminds me, I don't know if you remember this one, Shark, or the audience, but there's a lot of hubbub. I think it was either late last year or early this year regarding Ubisoft trying to bring Rainbow Six Siege to China and wanting to change the game around to make it more China friendly.
I haven't heard of that. No.
They removed like any mentions of gambling, drinking. They changed like the places like that were like bars or strip clubs. They like edited that stuff out. They removed all mention of gambling as well. There are no slot machines,
Did they
and
just rename it Gotcha?
yeah, and they tried to do that, but their fan base complained about it, saying that they were censoring the game. And I remember people writing think pieces about it, complaining about kind of how things will have worked there in terms of trying to, appease the Chinese market. And it kind of went a different direction there.
Yeah. I don't. I don't think I would ever change a game for Asia
Mm-hmm.
unless it was something small, and it would. I would probably just change the whole entire game for that. But it would have to be something so small that it doesn't affect the game basically in any kind of
Mm-hmm.
way.
Yeah. And again, like we're seeing more developers try and do this. Again, a very big point was about Tencent as well, and their stakes in Epic, League of Legends. There was also talk about them doing their own digital store. That was a big thing that was at the start of this year that we haven't heard anything else since from. But it's one of those really weird situations for video games. And taking this back to the Blizzard statement, again, as you were saying, that despite how much Blizzard is trying to say it doesn't have to do with them trying to be friendly with China, it everything that we see is the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they seem to be really playing to China, but then they're saying, "Oh, we're not playing to China."
Mm-hmm. Oh, and this is a really good one. Here's a quote from the piece that was on Gamma Sutra. We have these rules to keep the focus on the game and on the tournament to the benefit of a global audience, and that was the only consideration in the actions we took. If this had been the opposing viewpoint delivered in the same divisive and deliberate way, we would have felt and acted the same. And a lot of people are calling that as BS because Blizzard has famously allowed people to say homophobic, racist, and other things on their streams or playing Overwatch, and nobody got permanently banned and all, and prize money taken away from that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the other thing is in that article it was talking about the pride of our country, and in that reference it was referring to China in there,
Mm.
and that was really like, ugh.
Not the smartest thing. I know there's been supposedly walkouts at Blizzard over this,
Oh
and
yeah,
ag-
supposedly half of the staff walked out, if not more.
mm-hmm. And yeah, like this is one of those topics where it's this is like a slow moving car crash times 10 in terms of just watching this from the outside.
The slow moving 5 billion car pileup.
Or better yet, like a slow moving like Hindenburgs crashing into each other.
Double Hindenburg.
Yeah. And
Never go double Hindenburg.
no. And there's definitely a lot to unpack with this topic. And there are several big points I wanted to bring up that we were talking about before we started the stream. And I'm sure for the people watching this live record, if there's any other parts, let us know in the comments. But the first thing that I wanted to say, and this kind of takes us to the esports side, is that what does this mean for the people who are playing and covering the game? Excuse me. Because one of the big things, as we've seen, when it comes to the rise of esports, is the rise of the people surrounding it. Not just the company, but the players, the broadcasters, people who organize events, things like that. And it's a very weird situation when you have all these different elements trying to come together and make things work. This is one of the reasons why traditional sports are very I'm not even sure what the word I'm thinking of. Imperialistic. It's very much like a singular empire. The NFL controls all football. FIFA controls soccer, NBA, and MLB, and so on and so forth. But with the game industry and with these kinds of companies, and I think Blizzard has also been a part of this, that you have the developer, you have the publisher, you have the broadcasters, you have the players, the fans, arenas, companies doing sponsorships and things like that. There's just so many balls in the air to juggle that
The streamers giving it publicity.
yep, streamers giving publicity. We're even seeing schools starting to have, esports programs or esports scholarships. So there is a lot that's tied into these things. And what happens when you have a situation like this? Like, again, there are people out there who are affected by this with anything with Blizzard who've had no stake or any impact in it whatsoever. And we were talking about this with like the players, other people who play or Hearthstone or Overwatch or StarCraft or whatever. Like, what do you do when something like this happens and it essentially affects your livelihood? And we could easily, transition this into talking about YouTuber and Twitch culture as well.
Yeah, I mean that's hard because like it, if you think about it, like most professional players stream too,
Mm-hmm.
but even non-professional players are like people who are inspiring to be professional players are streaming. So now they have to choose to either not stream at all
Mm-hmm.
or stream something else, and they're gonna not getting views kind of thing,
Yeah.
or they're gonna have to stream it, and you know what you can expect from that chat.
Oh yes.
It's going to be really, really nasty. It's like, how dare you
Mm-hmm.
represent this game? You know, you're scum. You know, scum.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to be like 5 billion timeouts
And we were
every minute.
joking about me turning on Diablo 3 last night too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's that very weird position that we're seeing this happen more and more with kind of the growth of the video game industry as not just a little niche or something for fun, but it's big business for everyone involved. Like, we were
Except for the
joking about
developers.
Fortnite earlier, but the whole, Ninja moving from Twitch to Mixer, you know, that is a very huge deal, not only for Ninja, but for anyone who plays Fortnite. Even following that up with the whole idea of Fortnite being shut off right now. You know, if when Epic decides to have a cute little event and they turn off Fortnite, okay, that's good for them. What about all the hundreds of thousands of people who are streaming and trying to make a living off of Fortnite?
Yeah. You know what kills me is it's a big industry for everybody, except for it seems like the developers of
Yeah.
the game. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the all the people who have invested very little time, very little anything
Mm-hmm.
into it, are getting almost all the money. But the people who actually made the
Mm-hmm.
thing that everybody's getting rich off of
Yep.
get very, very little.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Except
yeah.
for when that person is also several of the other people too.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of Blizzard, where they're both developer, publisher,
Yeah.
marketer, esports. They're a lot of the people. They're not
Mm-hmm.
just the one. But
Yeah.
when they're just the developer, though, they
Mm-hmm.
they, they get very little out of it.
Yeah. And that's another topic we've talked about before. We can easily talk about, every week at this point, in terms of just how much, the people surrounding the game industry are more famous than the people within it.
And more
And,
wealthy.
yeah, like, just imagine, for instance, like, if somebody was having a tournament in Fortnite right now, and they wake up that morning and they see, oh, Fortnite has been shut off for the next few days. Uh oh.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like, this is that very weird situation that a lot of people are tying their livelihoods to these secondary markets, to these businesses like this. And if like as a guard said there, that if you're not able to adapt and overcome, you are SOL. And like it's the same thing like with YouTube and Twitch. Like I said, like I did not like when I do the stuff here on YouTube. Like this is not like 100% everything that I do. I do the writings, I do the presentations, doing other projects because I don't want to be held to somebody else's market. Because if YouTube shuts down and that's all you do, like what do you do?
Yeah, you do the library roguelike too.
What was that?
The library roguelike.
Oh yeah. And it is a very scary time for that. And with Blizzard, yeah, those Chinese cookies, yep. Fortune cookies have become a lot more sinister these days. But like with Blizzard, like another very big blow, and it's getting back to what you were saying, that the low level employees of Blizzard, like they had no say in this whatsoever. Like I highly doubt the designers on Overwatch or World of Warcraft or Hearthstone were sitting there going, ban this player for saying something bad about China.
Mm-hmm. It's the people, the publishers and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot, everybody that has control. That's not the developers
Yeah.
that has control over that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? You know what? That comment made me think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Is fortune cookies the original source of gotcha mechanics?
Mm. Maybe. It all depends on what you get out of the cookie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But with Blizzard and kind of like the situation that they're in, Like, this is what a lot. Oh, good. Thank you for that one. GW2. That sounds very nasty. But with Blizzard, like, this is what a lot of people have been talking about when they first got bought by Activision. Because as a chat said earlier today, or said earlier, they're not really Blizzard Studios anymore. They're Activision Blizzard, or as they've been collectively, I can't even say right now, Acta Blizzard. And this has been like we've been joking and being scared about Activision's involvement in Blizzard for years, and I think this is kind of like that culminating point. There we go.
Yeah, it's a real mess, honestly, and like you, you would think their PR team would be like, no, and take away the shovel,
Mm-hmm.
keep them from digging the hole deeper. But I mean, either the PR team is sleeping or they're handing more shovels out.
Yeah, they've switched to drills.
Yeah.
Somebody was saying on Twitter that they're digging that hole to China right now. And I think that's perfect. I think that's their plan all along. Dig the hole so deep it just goes straight to China, and then they just work right there.
Exactly.
And
that's perfect.
like, it's just such a shocking moment, I think, for a lot of people to think about this. And we've said this before about kind of company culture and company branding being a major part of selling yourself these days. That, again, like, Blizzard's whole motto has been, thinking globally, respecting people of all nations, sexes, skin color, etc. And then, again, when push comes to shove, they fall down.
Yeah. I wonder if the company, we might see the company completely go under at some point at this rate, because between the phone, you got phones to this, right in a row, and we'll have to wait and see what follows. But if this keeps up, I think there's going to there could be potential for them to completely wither up.
And that actually takes me to a point I wanted to bring up as well, and that's the idea of who is part of the studio culture. Because one of the things that we've talked about before is that many of the major companies, when it comes to the game industry, aren't really the same companies than they were at their heydays. Again, people leave, people get fired, they move on, whatever. But just because you have the companies there in terms of branding doesn't mean it's the same people. I think the only exception to that rule would maybe be Nintendo. Like, Nintendo is one of those companies that you go work for Nintendo, you probably won't need another job ever again unless you get seriously fired. But for a lot of the other AA and AAA companies, I mean, again, we could have a drinking game of how many developers have started an indie studio after working at a big name company. Yeah, I think that describes it perfectly there, Guard. Nintendo is a weird place.
Well,
but
that makes me think of a completely side topic. That let me do this one here.
Oh no!
All right, you know how Nintendo has been getting pretty bad lately with the loot boxes and whatnot in their mobile games and everything. That's almost like the act of a villain. Like a Bowser has infiltrated Nintendo.
I'm waiting for them to announce our new head of mobile is Stan Wario. That would be like the ultimate troll. Like, they'll just name every new person who works at Nintendo after one of their characters, or Tom Nook. That would be better, I think, as the head of mobile.
No, Tom Nook's in head of for marketing.
There we go. Evil Nintendo. Is that considered Bowsette? There we go. I knew so. I beat track into it there. But man, you are right there, Froy. But back to Blizzard, like again, many of these companies they lose that. Like we've said this before about just how much does the employees represent the culture of said company. Now, when you're an independent company, that's easy. If it's a 5-person team and 2 people leave, that's about half your company right there. But when you have a company of hundreds of thousands of people, who really represents that? And when you start seeing those mass firings and layoffs like that, Konami, yeah, like the company changes. There was a big announcement, I think, of last year that Blizzard had a huge firing of a lot of their people despite reporting record breaking success. Of course,
Yeah,
Maxis, I think either Maxis is either no longer in business or they've just been completely like torn apart.
they have been torn apart from my understanding, and I
Hmm.
think the remnants of them have pretty much all quit.
Yeah.
I know, like SquareSoft, right before they became Square Enix,
Hmm.
all of the employees that were there, except for management,
Hmm.
quit. So it's not even the same company anymore. After and then they bought Enix, and then they did a merger, and then
Hmm.
they divided up people, kind of thing.
Hmm.
But it's not even the same company anymore, and it shows in their games because
Yep.
they Square Soft was my favorite company and one that I was very much inspired by to become a developer myself.
Hmm.
And everything after they become Square Enix has been like, oh God, that's not my inspiration. That's my nightmare.
Mm. And of course, Konami was brought up. Konami was one of the premier developers of the 90s and the thousands. I mean, they're the company that made Hideo Kojima a household name. And they have gone, completely down.
Yeah, they
They're
made
now
the
about,
original Turtles arcade machines
yeah,
and stuff. They're
Castlevania
great
too.
games. Mm-hmm. They made so many good games back in the past.
Yeah. And this is what I was saying in my piece about Monster Hunter World, that there's very few companies that are considered like from the 80s and 90s that are still like top tier or doing well today. Mm-hmm. Yep, BioWare. And like this is that like wrapping this like all together here. Like we're seeing the market and not only that but the culture has changed surrounding video games. Bethesda being a very big example of this. 15, 20 years ago, Bethesda could joke about how their games are buggy and not working right, and people were like, "Oh, well, we let it slide." Then we go to Fallout 76, and just the downward spiral of that game.
I think people. I think it's a kind of a different story with Bethesda. I think it's more that they were playing to a niche
Mm-hmm.
back then, and
Yeah,
there was nobody else. So it was either a buggy game or no game, and people were willing to accept a buggy game over no game.
and I
But now that's not really the case. There's many examples out there that aren't buggy.
and I think that's a really good point about not just with them, but with Blizzard and everybody else in general. That the game industry is not small anymore. I mean, when we do our weird game segment in a few minutes, we're going to see 30 more games being released in the next 4 days. But the idea that you can half-ass a game and just say, "Well, what else are you going to play?" That doesn't work anymore. Like last time when I played Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or when we played Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street, like those like nasty games of back then, those are our only options. It was either do I suffer with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde for the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or do I don't play anything. Today, I can if a game pisses me off or they do something I don't like, I can switch to 4, 5 dozen other games if I wanted to.
You
And,
know, the low quality games back then.
mm-hmm,
I think the I think the real like saving grace for me personally back then was rentals, because
Mm-hmm.
rentals you could find out if it was a horrible
Oh,
game before
yes.
you bought it, and then if it's a good game, go ahead and buy it. If it's not, then don't buy it. It's better to waste $5 than waste 60.
Or try and beat the game in the 5-day rental period.
Yeah.
Like, I never did that.
Oh, I did that all. I did that every weekend,
Yeah.
and it was just 3 days for me.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They lowered the rental. Back in the old days. The old days, it was 5 days.
No, that was the old days for me. It was 3 days back
uh,
in the old days, back in NES days.
yeah.
NES days. It was a rental lasted a weekend. It
Mm.
wasn't until Blockbuster came around that the 5 days thing
Mm-hmm.
came about.
Yeah. Now we're really dating ourselves to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, and I was saying this on Twitter as well. Like, this also goes back with the whole issue with Blizzard. That if this exact situation would have happened 10, 15 years ago, I don't think it would have blown up at all. Because I don't think anybody would have cared. We may have gotten a news piece, protester in Blizzard game gets banned. That's probably all we will have gotten. Because Blizzard could have squashed it. No, there was no real buzz around it. But today, that's a different story. It is a very big deal for everyone involved with video games, not just those who make it. But I guess, is there anything else I want to bring up about this? We talked about the Hearthstone. Is anything on your end, Shark?
Hmm. I just wonder what's going to happen in the future, and if they're going to keep on digging themselves all the way to China, and you know, if they dig themselves completely to China by doing this, I mean, what's going to happen? Are they just going to just only release their games to China after that point because nobody else will buy them? It's kind of like the
Mm-hmm.
old school. Nobody would import Japanese games over to
Mm-hmm.
the U.S. because it wasn't applicable to the U.S. market, kind of thing, or
Mm-hmm.
any market. It was like a Japan exclusive. Like so many RPGs were Japan exclusives. Are we going to have like Blizzard games being China exclusive, kind of thing?
Who knows? They may just do that. And let's see. Yeah,
That would make
Nintendo again has been like a weird outlier with a lot of the stuff. They've they've situated themselves in such a niche in terms of the major companies that they really still hold to that they're the only game in town. Like if you want a Nintendo game, you are dealing with Nintendo essentially, or literally.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think the fallout over this is going to end anytime soon with Blizzard.
Especially if they keep on digging that hole.
Mm-hmm. And I think the point, or the last point that I want to say then, is that with this kind of topic about just how much the people surrounding the games are now having control, that it's going to be very fascinating to see how this culture develops. Oh yeah, and that's right. Isn't BlizzCon in a few weeks?
Mm-hmm. I think so. It's
Oh,
coming soon.
that's going to be a very fun one. We should go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something I'm interested in is what is going to happen to the game industry if Blizzard does, in theory, go down.
Mm.
I mean, that's going to have ripples to the game industry, but what kind of effect will that have? I mean, will AAA be more on their toes, kind of thing? Will all the AAA start falling one by one?
Mm.
I mean,
Oh, here it is. It's starting November 1st. Mm. Yeah, I
November
mean,
1st.
Blizzard has a lot in terms of the game industry and so much clout over the years. I mean, for a lot of people working at Blizzard, is kind of like working at Nintendo for the console side of things. Like they're one of the biggest developers, and and don't forget, of course, about all the esports. StarCraft has been an institution in Korea for over 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a lot of people, and again, get back to our topic here. There's a lot of people who are held to these companies and held to these games who aren't just like the employees. And this is one of the things that's very shaky about the whole esports side of things. Because you may want to turn something to an esport, or you have fans playing it, but if that company goes under or they stop supporting it, what happens to that esport?
Exactly.
Like, it's not like you can't play. Let me think of a better example. Like, if MLB shuts down here in the United States or wherever, you can still play Little League Baseball. You can play in your backyard. If the server for a game gets shut off, that's it. Unless you're going to do crazy workarounds, you're not playing that game anymore.
Yeah. I gotta actually do a lot of research on esports stuff because there will probably be several people. If our next game is a success, there will probably be several people that would want to do an esport of that.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta do a lot of research on that.
Especially like arena and what was it, sealed deck competitions and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're already going to have tournaments and stuff like that in there, but not like an esport though. Mm-hmm. It's just set up to be tournaments and stuff like that, like a traditional card game.
Yeah. And we were joking about this on stream, but I'm just wondering what this is going to do for Gwent, considering like Gwent's been up and down lately.
Oh, is Gwent made by them? Is that a Blizzard game?
No, that's CD Projekt.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the Witcher card game.
They seem to be on their A game.
Yeah.
Witcher.
I mean, they kind of had a falling out when they did the Homecoming update, but it's still going strong. I think they're up to expansion number 2 with it. But yeah, that is the crazy thing about being held to these secondary platforms in these games. Like we said earlier, the whole Hearthstone community right now is probably not doing so well.
Nope.
And of course, people are now canceling their games en masse. I know a whole lot of people have been wanting to turn off World of Warcraft and such.
They're getting that wish now because I don't know if you heard this, but the guy who originally tried to get the World of Warcraft original back up, the developer, is officially protesting his own game.
That's always good.
And he said, trying to lead a bunch of other people into protesting it.
Yeah.
And quitting the game he brought back.
And like we were saying, these games and these companies these days, they touch a lot of different markets and areas. Like I was saying, there are schools around here now that are trying to have Fortnite clubs or esports training. What happens if a school or a library puts together their entire program, then that game goes under, and all that money goes away? And it is very scary, I think, for a lot of people and for these kinds of situations to develop. And I think as things develop, I think it's only we're going to hear more of these stories. What do you think?
I hope not, but probably.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a lot more.
Yep. And we are, at the time of this stream, it's been about 1 week since this whole mess blew up. So who knows what's going to happen next week when we come back?
We might have another topic next week for it.
Yeah, continuing a saga here. Alright, but with that, let's get to at least the lighter side of things. And let's see what weird games are coming out that may cause trouble down the line. You never know, right?
Exactly.
Alright, let me pull things up here. All right, let's see what we have. Let's see. Wait, what is this? There we go. Got the shark signal in the corner.
You know how to reach me.
Mm-hmm. Cheap Golf Susan supporter pack? Oh, look at this art, Shark.
Oh, jeez. It's art. It truly is art. Look at it.
Art
It says art on it.
and humor.
Oh, jeez. This is everything all rolled in one. Does it have horror in it?
I don't know. But it is an indie genre.
Oh, snap. Is that the only genre? Or?
Indie action and sports.
It needed to be indie exclusive because I mean that would have really gave them street cred right there.
I don't know what this is. Okay. Hymno the Silent Melody. Huh.
Apparently is a DLC.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't you play this one?
I think so. Oh yeah, this was that free game. I guess it's being expanded? Yep.
Did you talk to the developer of this one?
No, I did not. Yeah, this was one that was kind of created to be like think either therapeutic or something like that. And he decided to release it for free.
Actually, I think it was just. I don't think he released it for free. I think it was just a private kind of game or something, wasn't it?
No, it was available on Steam. Let's see. Yep, it is free on Steam. And then let's see. So I guess this. I don't know if this version's going to be free, but this looks like it's going to be like the. I guess like the version is going to be like the quote unquote retail.
No, this one's. See, it's not released. Look down there.
Yeah, this one's not out yet, but the other one
on Steam is not released. It says planned to release October 14th in 12 hours.
Yeah, and this is Hymno, the free version that we played.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess.
The question is what's the difference between the two? One costs money, one doesn't.
Yeah, we'll see. Detective Solitaire Butler story. What the? It's just Solitaire.
With the butler.
Only the butler did it.
Uh-oh.
Steampunk text adventure? What?
How is it steampunk if it's text?
It's not even an indie genre.
Not even indie genre? Then it must be AAA.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. And this is all coming out tomorrow, too. The Stars Between Us. Oh, it's VR. A VR love story. I don't think we're going to be playing that one. Ooh, epic fun.
Yarkon would probably love that one.
Mm-hmm. Grandia HD. I never played the Grandia series.
I don't think I did either, but I played mini games like it. Oh, never mind. I think it's something else. I'm thinking, what's the name that's really close to Grandia, but it's a side-scrolling shooter?
Ooh.
Because that's the one I thought it was. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Not a Gradius, is that it?
No, not Gradius. There's another one.
You said at the same time.
Not Gradius, too. I know Gradius. This was another one that was...
Not R-Type, right?
No, I don't think so.
Gun... No, that's Dun Dun Patchy? No, and that was a top-down.
No. It was very similar, named to Gradius. And the one that we just looked at, the RPG. Grandia. But it was... I can't remember the name of it. But they had several games, if I remember right.
Beetle Hunter. Stalker Online. Wait a minute.
Are we playing in real life games? Oh, look, it's PUBG. I mean, it looks like PUBG, does it
Yeah.
not?
Oh,
Probably
why can't
bought
I
the
get a
same
single
assets.
player Stalker?
Probably bought the same exact assets that PUBG bought.
Mm. Magician's Research, Out Buddies. Ooh, Crypto
Cryptofall.
Fall.
We seen that at the same time.
Wait a minute.
Is
What?
that a quicker game?
Think? Crypto Fall. Sorry, cryptocurrency. Oh, good. Let's see. What do we got here? Oh, good. I'm not clicking on that one right there. More epic fun. Oh, jeez.
I wonder how much DLC, how much it costs to get all the DLC in that game. Since we've seen like what 8
Yeah.
DLCs releasing in the next day.
Wait. I'm kind of confused here, cause the caption is for Disco Elysium, whatever it's called. I've heard people talk about that one, but that title is kind of weird. I don't
Gotta
know. Do
love
I?
the latex suits pack there.
Yeah, we're not clicking on that one. I don't know. Do I trust it or do I avoid it?
The latex suit packs.
No, we already know the answer to that one. Let's see. Soul.
Soul looks interesting. That robot
Surreal.
king underneath it could be potential too.
Watercolor aesthetics. Like it's a adventure game. An indie adventure game.
Oh, it's an indie game.
Hmm.
It's not a triple A.
We'll put in. We'll see. You never know with some of these adventure games. Oh yeah, they should do a Stalker Battle Royale. I mean, that seems like it would
Oh
just
yeah.
fit right there.
Oh yeah.
Rebel Inc.
Oh, it's Rebel Inc. I thought that said robot.
Wait a minute. Why does this look familiar? Hmm. Didn't they do this on mobile, or am I thinking of another one?
No clue.
Hmm. Oh, they're
That
still.
that little timer thing looked. Scroll back down. That looked like mobile. That
Let's
did look like
see.
mobile. The little GIF where they looked like they were holding it, and then the button was like doing a little timer going around.
Let's see.
Down towards the bottom, right there.
Hmm.
I mean, that looks like a mobile interface right there, where you click it and hold it, and then there's a little thing that pops around it.
Hmm. Yeah, I know they do a lot with mobile with their games. Ooh, Haunted Gas Station.
Sounds good.
Oh, God.
Spooky. Wonder how much it cost them for those assets.
Oh, he says low quality indie horror game. Oh, good. Short creepy pasta. Creepy pasta, whatever the pronunciation.
I think it's pasta, but
Hmm.
I don't know.
Oh, look. I think this is the perfect game for me right there.
Cat girl.
No. Below that one.
I missed that one. Is it
Get
Josh
good.
Simulator?
Get good or get wrecked. They should say this is a game for Josh, too.
Exactly.
Oh. I was hoping for a little bit more there.
We gotta get good.
Or get wrecked. Drunk
Exactly.
Ride. Shinobi Light?
Chernobyl. Chernobyl light.
Wait,
So
what the hell
somebody
is get even?
get even with the people who caused Chernobyl.
Oh, good. It's a survival. Ooh, play by your own rules.
Oh, so the game doesn't have any rules. We just make up our own as we go along. Hey, that enemy right there? Nah, he doesn't do any damage. It's my
No.
rule.
What the heck is Centralia Homecoming? Why is it rated AO? Hmm. Oh, Six Ages is coming to the PC. This one I'm excited about. This is the spiritual sequel to King of Dragon Pass. I actually have a press key, but I can't take a look at it until the 16th.
Can't stream it, rather.
Yeah. And like I spoke with the creator, David. What's his name? I just saw it. Hmm. I just saw his name and now I can't find it. Ah. Well, I did speak with the creator of it on a stream. I would like to have him back on to talk about it. But yeah, I'm curious to see how that one's going to do because King of Dragon Pass started out on the PC and then did really well on mobile, and then Six Ages was on mobile first and going to the PC. Travis Strikes Again. Okay. Ooh, Best Plumber. The Beast
What is
Inside.
that? Tortino or something?
Let's see. Ooh, is a run and gun.
Hmm.
What?
Well, I think I've seen this one before. Don't know where.
Hmm. The assets aren't inspiring a lot here. Confidence, though.
Yeah.
Hmm. It's a lot of words for that DLC. Moo moo move.
Assets look mismatched.
Wait. The beast inside is that a Chernobyl game again? What the hell is going on here?
Maybe everybody's making Chernobyl games. Yeah.
Wait a minute. Why am I getting the same advertisement? Beast inside. Okay. Everyone's just making the same game. Monkey King. I heard people talking about this. Looks like a DreamWorks movie here.
Kind of.
Hmm. Oh, I was right. Based off a CG animated film.
I seen something that said cosmetics, and that's always a good sign when you
Ooh. That is some striking color with this one.
the cat lady. I know several people who would love this game.
Mm-hmm. Wait, so do you use they get twin? It's a dual stick shooter with roguelikes, and you upgrade cats.
I mean, can you really upgrade a cat? Aren't they already maxed out at perfection when they're brand new? And max stats.
Well, it is a roguelike, so I do have to put in for it. I'm required. It'll be like the Binding of Isaac there. Killjoy Hunter? Oh, this is a game I got a press key for. Little Big Workshop. Looks kind of interesting, like a sandbox, like Factorio or Production Line kind of game.
Hmm.
Can't look at that one until the 16th. 16th is going to be very busy, apparently, for me.
You're going to have to play them all on the 16th. You're going to have to do like a 16-hour stream or something.
Oh, no. Oh, good. You know it's a bad sign when the title says hentai, and it has 18 plus uncensored warning at the same time.
And it's only DLC.
Oh, good. Let's get the full game. Good on Mega Aquarium. It's coming to the consoles. That's from the developer who did Big Pharma.
Why is there a girl in my house? Love that title.
Wait, what?
Why is there a girl in my house? That's a good question. Let's
Yeah.
play the game and find out
Oh,
why
yes.
there's a girl in your house. Is
That's
she
a
your
really
mom?
good title.
Is she your mom? You know, is that why she's in your house?
Why is there a
Is she your
cat
sister?
paw print there? Oh, God.
There's cat ears. It looks like on her
Mm-hmm.
too.
Anime Tanks Arena. Pimp Quest? For a second, I thought it said Pimp Quest. That would have been. I think we just got the next game right there.
Somebody quick, copyright Pimp Quest.
Mm-hmm. Figure Simulator War. I'm afraid to click on that one.
FYI to everybody, you can't copyright a name like that. You can trademark it. You can't copyright it.
Mad Cow Balls 2.
That sounds fun.
What? You started the game with 15 lives? Where did you get that number from?
I don't know. It's less than 30 and more than one. It seems legit to me.
How you like that art?
It's puzzling.
Is it appealing?
No. It's unbreakable.
Oh, I did get a press key from the developer for this one, Null Drifter. I think I'm going to look at it on the Spotlight stream. Wasn't bad, but it wasn't a game that I think you could dedicate a lot of time to in terms of analyzing it. The Dwarves of Glistenveld. Oh, that's a name. I'll give them that. 2.5D real-time strategy with sandbox and RPG elements.
I don't know if that name is safely extreme.
Nah.
Too extreme.
So, is this like a Dwarf Fortress like? Or is it more of just like of an RPG?
Real-time strategy game with sandbox and RPG elements.
Oh, that's a campaign. Wait. There's mini games? I don't know. UI looks like it's going to be a little confusing to follow. Alright. We'll look at one more page and we'll move on. I am not clicking on that one. That one's setting up a lot of red flags.
Just a couple.
Beardy the Digger. What? Oh, discover the genre of platformer from a new perspective. I just wrote a book on platforming. If only this game would have came out earlier. What was that?
I said you can look at it from a new perspective.
Yeah.
Instead, maybe top down, you look at it from down under, like the Australian platformer or something. I don't know.
Oh. I'm not seeing anything that's thinking outside the box here. Oh no. Sound effects immerse in an atmosphere of adventure and danger, but we don't hear anything. Okay.
Come on, Josh. This is innovative
Mm-hmm.
and original and outside the box.
How about
Everything else has been done.
How about hentai energy? Is that thinking outside the box?
Oh, we need that. We need a hentai energy drink now. We got Monster. We got Didn't that one PC Razer make their own energy drink?
Yeah.
Now we need the hentai energy drink. It gives you energy for.
Yeah. The Draken may want to buy that one. Don't say that, Ricardo. That's gonna get us very. We're gonna. There's hentai hot sauce. I don't even want to know. And
I've seen a meme for that, but I didn't think that was real.
This may be the winner for the name of the week right here.
Very sticky something man.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Four
Very
Island.
sticky name.
Mm-hmm. Meeting with reduced animals? Ooh, grow. Food and water are very important. Thank you, game.
What is a reduced animal?
I don't know. I was hoping somebody would explain that.
Is that an animal that's been like I don't know, like been put in a saucepan for like several hours until it reduced down to
I won't know
a
why this guy
more
doesn't have a shirt
sticky.
on. He brought pants to the mysterious island, but not a shirt. Okay. Well, I
That
think that's
seems
a
like a
lovely way to switch over to our final topic. We'll spend a few minutes on this one, then we'll wrap it up. Looks like it's about to rain, too, here. That's always a good sign.
oh yeah.
Spookiness right there. But, very quickly, I want to talk. This was the topic I wanted to bring up last week before I got all sunburned. But regarding secondary systems in games. So, essentially, the idea of building additional loops either alongside or on top of the main gameplay. So to give you an example, I've been playing obviously Monster Hunter World, and besides the core gameplay of fighting the enemies and going out there, you have the secondary systems of crafting new gear, you have a fishing mini game, you have cooking, you have all these other little aspects of it. I think the one Shark is probably most familiar with would be the sub games or subsystems of Disgaea, and all the layers that go into that. And
Especially the later ones.
and like each one of the games from Nice, like after the scale one, just kept adding in more secondary systems. Like with Sky 5, there's the item world, there's the whole voting system, there's sending characters away on missions, there's of course, the transmigrating characters and so on. And I guess for you and for the audience, do you like games that, and again, like the JRPG genre is full of examples of games that have secondary systems to them. Do you like games that have them, or do you think it distracts from the main gameplay?
Well, I think it depends on the execution of the game and how
Mm-hmm.
well they fit together. Like, I mean, if they're just completely separate things that don't matter, then no. But if if they do matter in some kind of way, and they mesh into the game somehow, I tend to enjoy them. Like Final Fantasy VII, it's RPG. You're going around doing RPG things, and then all of a sudden you go and you're raising chocobos and you're breeding chocobos and everything else, and that unlocks
Mm-hmm.
more areas that you can access from those using the chocobos through that use of the mini game. Well, actually, it's almost two different mini games because it's the breeding side and then it's a racing side
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. But they add to the gameplay rather than take away from it, kind of thing. So like, if it's done like that, I would like it. But if it's just, hey, you're walking through a building and all of a sudden there's this arcade machine and it's a Pac-Man emulator that has nothing to do with the game. It's like, who cares?
Yeah. And like for a lot of the RPGs out there that have like multiple systems like that, we always see developers either go one of two ways. Either it's completely incidental to the main gameplay, or they tie, the ultimate gear or the grand final challenge to these sub games. And it's very annoying when they do that because you may have a system that nobody wants to play with, but they're kind of forced to do that. One of my least favorite systems in these games is the ever popular fishing minigame. I just cannot stand fishing, but it's in the Yakuza series. It was in the Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. I think it's even in, yeah, there's a fishing minigame in Monster Hunter as well.
Well, I tell you, a good game that's really good at doing a whole bunch of mini games like that and a whole bunch of side systems is Stardew Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Because Stardew Valley is
Yep.
almost nothing but that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they all build onto the system, and you're required to do them if you want 100%. But I mean, if you don't want to do 100%, I mean, you could easily skip over half of them
Yep.
and be perfectly fine.
hmm And I think another important point with Stardew Valley is that everything that you do has its own reward loop to go with it. That I think
Hmm.
is another big point for a lot of games that have secondary systems. That a lot of times the secondary system doesn't exactly reward you directly with what you're trying to do. You may get bonus money, but okay, that doesn't help me when I have $5 million in the bank already. But Stardew Valley did a great job that the more you do with farming, you're rewarded with more options in the farming. The more you do in combat, more combat, mining, fishing, etc., etc.
We just learned that Josh is a secret millionaire. He's got $5 million in the bank.
Sure. It's all because I've been selling all my sunburned skin. People have been buying that up.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting subject because like some games they they add to the game. Like the secondary systems benefit the game. It's a and then others they're hindrance to the game
hmm
or something you're forced to do. Well, that would be a hindrance too, but like they just bring the game down in some way. So I think that it really depends on the execution of the particular system that
hmm
they're adding in.
Yeah. I think another really good example, obviously one that you're well aware of, is of course a triple triad from Final Fantasy VIII, and
Yep.
that is a secondary system again that you didn't need to play it, but if I remember right, like certain characters, I think ultimate weapons were tied to it.
Uh, I don't remember. I don't think so. I think one character might. I think Zell's might have been linked to it, but I can't remember.
hmm
But yeah, I mean, Triple Triad. I know a good bit about it since I'm doing a game currently based on Triple Triad.
hmm
But yeah, I mean, I don't. I mean, like they did reward you for in the game because you would play card games of Triple Triad against other people, and you would get rewarded better cards in the matches, kind of thing. So you would get that reward for the actual card game,
hmm
but I don't know if there's any actual legendary weapons or anything hide in there. If there was, I think there was only one in there,
hmm And
but I can't remember.
before I mention, of course, Gwen being another really good example that it became so popular it spun off to its own game. And I think it's always tricky about that balance of just how much that sub game or that secondary system has in the title itself. Like I've said this before about the Skaya franchise, that it gets to the point where I'm spending more time doing the secondary systems than I am actually playing the core gameplay.
Well, I think that's fine if they're entertaining.
hmm
You know, if you're enjoying yourself playing the other systems. But I think that it matters. I think choice matters in that kind of thing. You gotta, if you're interested in doing it, go do it. If you're not, then don't. But having it be required is probably a pretty big no-no unless it's so similar to the core gameplay loop
Mm,
kind of thing.
yeah. And again, we see this a lot from the JRPG genre, from a lot of Japanese style games, where you have these different systems and they'll all interact with each other or they'll just be completely separate. And it can be very annoying to realize, oh, because I didn't do enough of the restaurant sim mini game or subsystem, that now we're not ready to fight the final boss or things like that.
Well, generally, from my experience with the JRPGs, is they don't prevent you from finishing the game, but they will prevent you from getting a lot of times the some really good gear kind of
hmm
thing sometimes.
Or
But
they'll, or I think like a lot of them will also it will make things a lot easier for you if you go down that little rabbit hole of those systems. So there's games that allow you to craft new gear versus just buy it, or modify stuff, attach +5 fire protection, or craft a fire sword, things like that.
I don't think it's intended to be easier. I think it's intended to be the extra strength you need for
Mm-hmm.
the secret bosses and stuff like that
Mm,
kind of thing. Because there's pretty much no way to beat them without that kind of stuff.
mm-hmm. And I think it's also very important. Make sure there's good uh, instructions or gloss or something to explain to people how things work. And Salvador said China entered the chat. I think we're a little late for that one.
Yeah,
But you need to be really careful with how you explain these systems to the player. Because if it is going to be something that's important or it's going to affect the main gameplay, they need to know why and how it does that.
yeah. I think the Sky has to work a little bit on their onboarding. I mean,
Yeah.
they sometimes they lock stuff and then unlock it kind of thing, but they don't exactly onboard you good enough kind of thing if you're new to it. But at the same time, is you if you're already experienced with it, you want to be able to get into that pretty much
Hmm.
right away. So how do you do both at the same time? It's like
Yeah.
it's like manually unlock this and skip the tutorial kind of thing. Maybe a button like that.
Hmm. Yeah. And that was an issue that Monster Hunter ran into up until World. That so many of these subsystems of that game about how you track monsters, how you upgrade your gear, how you keep yourself prepared, there is no mention or no in-game tutorial for that. And for the people who play them, that stuff is second nature. Again, like the experts at Disgaea, they know relatively well how they're going to build their level 9999 characters. But if you've never touched a Disgaea game or a Monster Hunter game, you're going to be kind of thrown to the deep end. Now, one thing that Disgaea 5 did that I thought was kind of polarizing was they did actually lock secondary systems when you started playing the story. You had to actually go through, I think, 2 or 3 chapters before you actually got the item world, which is a big change from the previous ones where it was just unlocked from the get go.
Yeah, they were trying to work on their onboarding, and then they pissed off everybody that likes the
Mm-hmm.
that didn't need to be onboarded,
Yeah.
and at the same time, that didn't really help the people who needed onboarding. That just it gave them more time to just digest the systems before it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, time is not onboarding. Time is
Yeah.
just time.
Time wasted, essentially.
Yeah,
And like we've said before, the whole real game begins at X as something you want to avoid whenever possible. And when you have these like secondary systems and mechanics in your games, you know you want to explain to the player as early as possible, but you don't want to get in the way of the main gameplay.
yeah. I mean, we had a issue with the real game starts with X with our last game.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it wasn't really that the game started at X. It's more like the story really took off. When you got to the Red Castle kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that's something we need to work on, kind of thing. I mean,
Yeah.
but that is definitely a problem, and it's a hard problem to solve, and it's a different problem for every game. It's a different way to solve it.
Yeah. And that's true as well, Gordo.
Yeah,
And
that you know they don't often just nowadays they just wait to put the microtransactions in until what month after the first month is over or first 3 months are over kind of thing.
mm-hmm. Now, one thing that we were talking about that I think this was an interesting conversation that Shark and I were having before we started the chat. I want to bring up here, and Shark brought up the game seven. What was it? 7 Days to Die.
Mm-hmm.
And like that game is a survival game, but there's a lot of extra systems to it. You're crafting. Hey Trayvon, how you doing? It's been a while. But you have the crafting, you have fighting the zombies, you have eating, and all that. And would that be considered secondary systems, or would that all be part of the same gameplay loop? Because I could say the similar things about Subnautica. In Subnautica, you are swimming, exploring, crafting, and surviving, but it's all still, it all falls under the same umbrella, I guess, in a manner of speaking.
I think I would say they're all separate gameplay loops,
Mm-hmm.
but they all mesh together pretty much seamlessly, kind of thing.
So, kind of like when I talk about like multi-system design and something like XCOM, that all you have multiple systems that are separate, but they still operate under the same goal almost.
Yeah, I would say it's more seamless than what XCOM
Oh
did,
yeah, for sure.
but yeah, the same kind of thing.
And like for myself, like an example of something that I want to see more with secondary systems is again like the whole shop simulator genre. I'm still waiting for the proper successor to Racketeer, and we haven't gotten that one yet.
Oh, I was about to say Ricketeer, but it's like that's the ones you named. It's like, oh, never mind then.
But yeah, Racketeer a really great example of two separate systems coming together.
Yeah, I mean that game. I didn't expect much when I got it, and then I got it, and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
I got it in like a bundle from
Mm-hmm.
all their games. Like I got like 3 or 4 or 5 games from the same developer that made Racketeer, and
Mm.
like I got it for one, and then I found Racketeer, and like they have a lot of really good games. I mean, they're not like mainstream games or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that. They're probably very unknown for the most part,
Yeah.
but they're quite good. A lot of them. I mean, they're not not amazing or anything. They're just quite good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's actually two really good topics right there. El Gordo's one about time limited mechanics in games, because that's something that I have a lot. I've always had a despisement of them, but it's a very interesting thing to talk about, and about just okay games added to the never-ending list of topics.
Indeed, it's just every cast we do, we add 4 more topics to the list, and we only take 2 off of it, and then we
Mm-hmm.
get 2 or 3 more during the week, and we
Yeah,
just end up growing the we take away 2, we add 6, 7, 8, 10 to it.
it's Hydra right there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Like for me, like, and I think El Goro's point right there is a really good one about you have to decide what to do and what to ignore. I think that's a very important thing to understand when you're building multiple systems in these games. That if they're like so different, like to the point that it's literally using different UI conventions between one system to the next, you have to be careful just how much they're required. I think the exception would be something like XCOM or Star Control, where the whole point of the game are you're doing these like 3 to 4 different systems. But if like let's say you're playing like let's go back to the JRPGs example. Let's say you're playing a JRPG that's about turn-based dungeon crawling combat, but in the same token you require the player, let's say, in order to unlock the next dungeon, let's say I have to fish and then cook, a 5-star meal to unlock the next dungeon. That may not be seen. That may be seen as you're distracting from the core gameplay. Now, if it was a secondary thing, like let's say you go cook or you fish and cook, and that gives you a bonus, or you sell out for additional resources, that would be a different story.
Or it unlocks a special door inside of that second
Yeah,
dungeon. What was the 2 things you said? Time limited mechanics and what else?
about just okay games or games that are games that work, but they're just okay. Like they're not big sellers, but they're not failures either.
All right.
Darkest Dungeon. I don't, like Darkest Dungeon, I don't think it really has in the same way of secondary systems.
Well, it's got the rogue system. It's got all the stuff you do in the town where you're recruiting people and everything else.
Yeah, I guess that's more. I always saw that as more like a persistent element, but yeah, I think you're right. What about the side missions that were required? Yeah, and again, like that's always that annoyance or that very tricky line. Like if the side, I didn't play Dragon Age Inquisition, but like were the side missions like just you going doing like another quest, or is it just like a completely different gameplay loop?
I didn't play Inquisition, but I played the regular Dragon Age, and I liked it at first, but it got to a certain point where it just was not doing anything to me, and it
Hmm.
was just this quest, that quest,
Yeah.
and it was all meaningless.
Yeah. I think to Trayvon's question, I think it depends on how you frame it. And I think that's another really big point about these secondary systems. Like a Monster Hunter does a similar thing. There are main quests, there's optional quests, and then there's quote unquote optional quests that unlock new bonuses and stuff going forward. And well,
They did it where I think the optional quests weren't optional.
yeah,
They were optional until you got to a certain point, and then they were no longer optional. You had to do it.
yeah. And again, I think it's really how you frame that stuff. And honestly, I don't think Monster Hunter doesn't do it as successfully as I would have liked. Like what they have is like anytime you see a side quest, or I guess quote unquote side quest, it has like a little quotation box or like a speech bubble. It means that secondary quest is going to unlock something new. And like this is where we begin to stretch the term optional. Like for those of you who didn't play Monster Hunter, the when you complete some of these secondary quests, you will unlock additional functionality, such as being able to get free resources without having to go out and grind them. And in the early game, that doesn't mean anything. But when you're in the end game and you're trying to, keep going and keep doing the hard quests, you need those expensive resources, or you're gonna have to take time away from that. And again, like I'm gonna have to defer this to Shark here, his dev sense. Like, how would you pitch to someone an optional quest, but it's technically not optional because it's going to help you out in a big way?
Yeah. Hmm.
And I think El Gordo said it too, right there.
How okay, so the way I see that going down is so players don't like this quest. Well, make it optional, but it's required for the game. Just make it optional. When they get to it, when they get to a point of no return, they'll be like, "Okay, I got to go do this," even though it's just optional. So it
Mm,
makes them feel they have a choice
mm-hmm.
when they don't.
Yeah.
It's all about how you frame it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, ARPGs do that as well, not just with like Warframe. Like you could take this item that gives you plus 2% movement speed, or how about something that increases your DPS by 300 points. Which one should you take? And of course, XCOM being one of the big examples of multi-system design or secondary systems. And War of the Chosen, I think, did a really good job of expanding those secondary systems. The whole uh, camaraderie system with your squaddies now, War of the Chosen. I think that's a really great example that you can ignore it if you want, and it doesn't really do anything, or you can cultivate it and you'll get more of a benefit out of it. And I guess going back to Monster Hunter, the cooking mini game I think is a really good point about that. You can cook various ingredients that give you perks and increases your health and stamina before a hunt. And you could min max that, trying to get the perfect perks for it. Or you just say, give me the best stuff, give me my full health and energy, and go out. And either way, you're still getting the benefit, but people who, take the time will get a little bit more, but it's not, game breaking. There's no, food min max optimization.
Well, there might be one day.
Maybe. I think
I mean,
I'm just
got to
about.
get back to the food RPG.
Mm-hmm. What was the topic I said we could maybe do at the end if we had some time? Maybe we can save it for next week.
Was it Indie Darlings or
Oh yeah, the indie darling one. Yeah. May add that one to the list too. I think about the games that are just rising up too much there. All right. But I guess, do you have anything you want to add for secondary systems, Shark?
I I think that if you're a developer and you were going to do it, you need to do it in such a way that it, number one, makes sense for your game.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, ties into it. Don't lock necessary things behind it. I would I would say probably don't lock anything that is required for something else behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I would, like to do the main gameplay loop, they have to do this to 100% the main gameplay loop. I would say don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say definitely include rewards for that gameplay loop into other things. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, that doesn't 100% work exactly now that I think about it, because at the same time you have Disgaea. There's definitely systems in there that are
Yeah.
required to go with the others. So that's not 100% rule, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's a general rule that will apply to most situations. So
Yeah.
take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, like the Skaya is that crazy like example and exception when we talk about this rule. Like it has secondary systems on top of secondary systems that don't affect the main gameplay, but affect the other secondary systems attached to it.
Yeah,
And
and they affect and they in the end, all those systems do end up affecting the main gameplay, but they don't break it or anything.
mhm,
They just, I mean, you go into the item world, you make your item stronger, you come back into the main world, and then you use your stronger item. You go into
mhm,
like the school or whatever, and you pair characters up, and now you go back into the main gameplay loop, and then now they do an awesome combo together. You
mhm.
do.
and
It's really difficult.
and again, like you can really ignore like half the secondary system in a Skaya game, and you can still beat the main game that way.
Oh, you ignore all of them because I
Yeah.
mean, you could just grind into your level 200 and you could easily beat,
Mhm.
with the lowest level of gear. You could have like just the gear that you started with and just easily just go in there and just plink,
Mhm.
the final boss on the nose and he'll die.
Yeah. And like to add to what you were saying there, like about having the secondary systems work, they have to apply to the main gameplay. Like again, this is one of the reasons why XCOM works so well. That each system basically works off of the other system, and then it all just comes together. What you do in the tactical layer affects your base building. The base building affects the geoscape. Geoscape affects the tactical, and just goes around and around like that. And that is, of course, like I think, kind of like the high point when we have these secondary systems that everything works together. But like as you said, if it's like if the systems are so different from each other, it's a first-person shooter, it's a driving sim, and then it's a cooking mini game on top of it, then you need to be careful just how much of an integration there is or a requirement between them. Now, again, all that gets thrown out the window. We're talking, post game, super challenge, 200%ing the title.
Yeah. And I was about to say, I just noticed a pattern there, and Trayvon, you got to it before I could and said that it's a loop. And it is a circular motion because if you look at the XCOM example, it's
Mm-hmm.
going in a loop.
Yep.
Each one benefits the other one. But if you look at the Disgaea one, the same thing happens. But in Disgaea, you have the option to just go in a straight line and the
Mm-hmm.
loop doesn't affect you, where XCOM, you
It's
have to do that
mandatory.
loop.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And again, like it's such when we talk about Star Control, XCOM, and games that are XCOM like, they are like they're the outliers. I feel. I mean, even to El Goro's point about Darkest Dungeon would be a good example. That the Hamlet is its own self-contained system, yes, but if you don't do that, there is literally no way you're going to beat the main game or the dungeon crawling. It's not
Mhm.
possible.
And that's a loop too. You
Mm-hmm.
go through the dungeon, you go back to the hamlet, you loop back
Mm-hmm.
around.
Get more power, go to something harder, bring it back, and it's very effective. I think, again, when we talk about these gameplay loops like this, like there's a reason why the Monster Hunter grind or the ARPG power curve works so damn well. Yep, and again, the XCOM loop entirely along those lines. And but the problem though is that it's very hard to do it right because if you fail one part of that loop, it brings the entire game down. Like with the XCOM example, if the tactical layer was horrible, then it wouldn't matter the base building and the geoscape was perfect because I think this goes back to that example that chefs like to say. Like when you build a meal that's really like three smaller meals in one, you're basically forcing the person to critique three meals instead of one complete package.
Yeah, I think I think the way that ex- I think the way a lot of these systems work is they're they're super simple.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you think about the XCOM one, I mean, you have your building phase where you're going in there and you click a space to dig out. You wait several
Mm-hmm.
days, and then before you can do anything, and then you have one slot that you can put one building, and then there's very little bit that matters on where you place the buildings. There's a few that matter that have need
Mm-hmm.
do better placed next to others, but besides those specific ones, there's not really anything, and even those aren't. You don't ruin them by not placing them where they need to be
Mm-hmm.
placed. And then like you go into the like the geomap part, and there's only like two or three different things you can click on. I mean,
Yeah.
there's not really much choice there. There's just a little bit. You can't really totally screw it up. I mean,
Yeah.
both of those systems are where no matter what you do, pretty much besides doing nothing, you
Mm-hmm.
can't really totally screw it up.
Yeah. And I think a major to add on to that, another major thing to realize is that these systems themselves aren't strong enough to stand on their own. Like that's one of the big things about these secondary systems and multi-system design that you can't play XCOM as just a base builder or just a geoscape layer. We could argue just play at the tactical layer. It could be its own game, but you have to be really careful with how, as you said, just how much you give to these secondary systems. And that takes me to one final example, and then I think I'll throw it to you, and then we'll wrap it up. What did everyone think about? I know one of the Assassin's Creed games added like a forced tower defense minigame. I didn't play that at all, but what did everyone think about that as like kind of being added to the game?
Which one was that?
I want to say
Was
it
that
was one of
something
the.
after Black Flag?
Could have been before.
Because I played everything Black Flag and before. I didn't play anything after because they went to crap after that. I don't remember anything like that in Black Flag or before.
Let's see.
I remember there's some missions that weren't really tower defense, but they may have had some slight elements of tower defense in them.
Mm-hmm. Could have been, I think, maybe Assassin's Creed Revelations?
Yeah, that
Maybe?
would be basically Assassin's Creed 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the Assassin's Creed 2 trilogy, and I think I remember something in there having elements of tower defense,
Mm-hmm.
but not being a tower defense. I
Mm-hmm.
think if I remember right, it was just you had to get from point A to point B, but there was some
Mm-hmm.
enemies that would get in your way, and you would have to
Yeah.
choose different ways to get around them. And usually, the best way to do it is take them down and then go on. So in that way, it was like a tower defense because you were your own tower and you had to go down there
Mm.
and get them before you went back, or else you would
Mm.
expose your base and then you would lose the game essentially.
Okay.
But
Well,
that's the only thing I can think of like that.
all right. But I think we'll wrap things up here. We're just about to hit 2 hours. I know Shar wanted me to do another 2 hours worth of topics, but then my voice will be dead for tonight when we do our game streaming.
Oh, it wasn't just me; it was the whole chat.
Oh,
You know,
jeez.
right? Oscar and Mojo.
I think Draken already went to sleep.
Uh
I think he missed when we talked about the visual novel games.
yeah.
Alright, but I think we'll wrap it up for this week. Tonight we'll be doing Ghostbusters and probably some other game. I have to see what else I can find. But Shark, as ever, or as always, it was a pleasure having you on for tonight.
It was good being here.
Ideally, next week I won't have any sunburn, and we won't have any issues like that.
So you're going to stop cosplaying as a tomato
Yep.
and a
Mm,
zombie?
yep.
Who are you going to cosplay as next?
I don't know. I need to get a. My favorite thing was some. I think of course I should get the Phantom the Opera mask and just like wear it on my face.
Yeah, I mean, last week, if we would have had a cast, I would have played as the Sasuke killer. And then this one, I'm playing as Shark Man and the
Mm-hmm.
Shark Signal.
Mm-hmm.
You got something planned for next week, too.
Oh boy. Mm-hmm.
This one next week is going to be, the next 2 weeks are going to be horror based,
Uh
too.
oh. They'll get
The
scared,
first one,
everybody.
the first one being old school horror, and the other one being sort of new slash oldish, because there was a remake.
All right. But yeah, we will end things for now. So everybody, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next Sunday around 3:34 p.m. And again, if you are new, be sure to check out my second book is now out, Game Design Deep Dive Platformers, with an exploration into 2D and 3D platforming philosophy and methodology. And come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where is in the art and science of games. For you, Shark, where can people find you on Twitter and social media?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Nexus Games Inc. 1, and you can find me on Discord on Josh's Discord, the Game Wisdom Discord, as well as if you hit me up on there, I can give you a link to my Discord for Nexus Games, and you can participate in our once a month dev chats. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes a lot of times we test the game there, and everybody gets basically a free temporary key to the game, Project Triad, that hasn't been named yet, but based off of Triple Triad.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
All right. Well, folks, that is going to do it. So have a great rest of your Sunday. We'll be back later tonight for the game stream, and we'll see you guys next week for another chat about the art and design of video games. Until then, take care.